Lishu had not seen these women in the rear palace. Judging by their clothing, she thought they were court ladies who served in the palace itself. Lady Lishu, the woman in the center, said as she knelt before her, "Please accept our humblest apologies, but you will be asked to live outside the rear palace for the next month." She lifted her head and looked Lishu in the eye. Chapter 9 Homecoming. The horse whinnied as it stopped in front of the verdigris house. That was a long trip, Maomao thought. She climbed out of the carriage and nodded politely to the driver. He unloaded her luggage with a thump. The luggage included the outfits that had been thought necessary for the journey. These were now hers to keep, along with some unique products and unusual medicines from the western capital. There was also a gigantic load of potatoes. Maomao, my goodness. Are you planning to open a new business? The old madam walked up, holding a pipe in her withered hand. I am happy enough that you got them to send us rice, but I wish you would think about the amount. The storehouse will not hold any more. She grabbed one of the dried potatoes from a basket. It was still raw, but it was growing eyes, so it would have to serve as a seed potato. After the showdown at the quack doctor's village, Maomao had at least wound up with as much rice as they would sell her. She would tell the madam by letter. The first batch must have arrived already. And what is this? The madam asked, looking at the potato dusted in white powder. Maomao took it, tore off a piece and put it in her mouth. For a potato it was awfully sweet, almost as sweet as a dried chestnut. The madam took a piece too and chewed. Her eyes narrowed. She said it would be better to grill it a little first. It is a bit tough for me. She shouted for one of the menservants, instructing him to haul the basket away. Maomao said nobody said you could have all of them. Nobody had to. I know for a fact that you and Chuyu cannot eat all of those by yourselves. I am helping you out and I listened to you. Not even a word of thanks. The past month and a half clearly hadn't dulled the madam's stinginess one bit. Maomao, though, wasn't going to take this lying down. Even a year's free rent for the apothecary shop was cheap for all that rice, don't you think? She said. It was practically pocket change. She had written in her letter that the madam could give her free rent instead of paying for the rice directly. Maomao took the old woman's silence as agreement. Yes, this is separate. You received these for free, correct? Well, share them with your neighbors, the madam said. Everyone, Maomao is home. And she brought souvenirs. The old woman never let up. Her shout brought a crowd of courtesans. Work was over and they should have been resting. However, the mercenary impulse was strong. Freckles, Chuyu came bursting out of the crowd with Zhulin obediently following her boss. But there was something else with them. Yeesh, you sure took your time. You just up and leave and then you don't come home for nearly 2 months. That wasn't part of the deal. Yeah, well, Maomao hadn't bargained for it either. What bothered her more was the creature behind them. Hey, what is that behind you? She demanded of Chuyu. Don't tell me you forgot about Zhulin. What a jerk. That is not what I am talking about. Behind her. Maomao pointed at a calico cat sitting and grooming herself. What, you do not remember Maomao? Man, that's cold, Chuyu said. Oh, believe me, I remember her, Maomao said. But the furball was supposed to be at the quack's village. What was she doing here in the pleasure district? What I want to know is, why is she here? The madam answered the question. She was with the rice. They could not exactly send the cat back by herself, could they? Anyway, she added, I had just spotted some mice in the storehouse, so I think she can stay for a while, and she is friendly, which makes her popular with the customers. We have to do something about her habit of stealing side dishes at dinner, though. The madam was a practical woman. She would never keep a pet, but an animal who could make itself useful was all right. Maomao the girl gave Maomao the cat a dark look. The furball narrowed her eyes, yawned a little and said Mio. At that moment someone stumbled out of the apothecary's shop. You are home? Asked the man, Sazan. Maomao had tasked him with running the shop while she was away. He had never been the most robust-looking person, but now he appeared haggard. He also had an unkempt beard on his face. He stumbled over to Maomao and promptly collapsed on the ground. The shop is all yours, he managed, and then he was out cold. Chuyu poked at him with a stick he had gotten somewhere. Stop that, the madam said, ordering a manservant to get Sazan out of the way. People were coming down with colds everywhere while you were away, Freckles. We used up the medicine you made before you left, but people kept begging us for more, Chuyu told Maomao. She nodded. It made sense. People often got sick as the seasons changed. Therefore, there hadn't been enough medicine, even though she had made more than she had expected to need. Very few people in the pleasure district could afford to go to the doctor for proper treatment. Most of them simply took some medicine, and a lot of them wouldn't even do that. Chuyu added, some of them were really pushy. One person even stole some medicine, saying they had received it for free last year. Maomao's old man had likely given it to him. It was a bad habit of his. He would give treatments free to anyone who came weeping and crying. Once you gave away medicine one time, everyone wanted it for free. He had probably given away many of the store's supplies until the madam noticed. Maomao entered the apothecary's shop. She saw a mortar and pestle with some medicine that was only half made. A medical book lay on the ground nearby. She picked up the book and flipped through the pages. They had smudges on them, as if Seizun had handled them with dirty fingers. Normally she might have given him a piece of her mind for failing to treat the book with proper respect. But when she saw him lolling there, she found she couldn't say anything. I might just have gotten a lucky break with him, she thought. He was not very skilled, but he did not give up. That was what really mattered. Maomao went through the drawers of the medicine chest. She counted which drugs needed to be replenished. Then she began cleaning up the messy floor. It was humid in the shop. Time had passed while she was busy cleaning up from her time away. It was now early summer. Rain fell continuously and there was no sign of it letting up. A young man, the son of an important merchant house, walked by. He was with a prostitute that Maomao knew. They trotted along under an umbrella, as if to illustrate that this season had its own charms. The woman likely did not enjoy getting her clothes wet, but she was not going to miss this opportunity to go out. The courtesan's activities were often quite limited. The brothel felt like a cage, and the courtesans were like the little birds inside it. You can almost hear the crickets in here, Maomao said, looking resentfully at the woman outside. She was chewing on a dried potato with her luscious lips. The potatoes were quite tasty if you heated them for a few minutes to soften them. They were sweet in their own way, not like snacks made with sugar or honey. It was so hard on poor Seizun too, she added. Epidemics aside, Seizun might not have collapsed if Maomao's trip had been at a slightly different time of year. Seizun tended to feel responsible at the strangest moments. He had evidently begrudged himself even time to sleep in order to mix up enough medicinal herbs. Do you not need some sleep, sister? Maomao asked. She was sure Maomao had been working the night before. The older woman had just finished her bath, and her hair was still dripping wet. To sleep when it was time to sleep, that was also part of a courtesan's job. Meanwhile, a high-class courtesan like Maomao had practice in the afternoons to keep her skills sharp. However, Maomao only munched lazily on the potato and looked at Maomao closely. She said, "Listen, yesterday, my patron, yes." Maomao recalled that Maomao had 3 patrons. One man was a civil official, and the other 2 were merchants. All 3 of them loved board games. He said I should come to his place, Maomao said. Coming to his place meant he wanted to take Maomao home with him. If he was speaking in that manner, he was not simply inviting her for a short walk with him. He wants to buy you out. That is what it amounts to. For a courtesan, being bought out was similar to getting married. It was a chance to be released from the confines of the brothel. Maomao did not look happy about it, though. Maomao could understand, as her taste in men was extraordinarily poor. "Is he bad news, this customer?" Maomao asked. "Not exactly," came the reply. "Is the madam opposed?" "Oh, she loves the idea." That might seem to make everything simple, but this decision would influence the rest of Meime's life. Maomao thought she did not want to take the decision lightly. Once made, it would not be easily undone. Maomao was still a popular courtesan, but no one knew how long that would last. Age was an unavoidable barrier for some in her line of work. Most women would have retired from the profession long ago. Maomao explained, "This man's wife has passed away, but he has children." Maomao didn't sound particularly interested. She simply said, She hadn't meant to respond so apathetically. She had suddenly found herself picturing the freak strategist. In the end, she gave him an alcoholic drink to knock him out. Then she made her escape before he woke up. Lahan had come with her, keen to get back to the capital. He wanted to coordinate about the potatoes. Rikusen had effectively drawn the short straw and had to stay behind. The strategist had been muttering in his sleep again about making a book. At the moment, he was probably ignoring all his work to focus on that task. Maomao wondered if Maymay still had feelings for him. Did she know there was no longer a bought courtesan at his house? Maomao briefly wondered if she should tell her older sister about it, but the information seemed as likely to make Maymay's life more difficult as easier, so she stayed quiet. Kids don't tend to like me very much, Maymay said. Can't you just ignore them? Maomao replied. Interesting idea. For some reason she seemed to be studying Maomao. She had finished the potato and was wiping the grease from her fingers with a handkerchief. King of kids, where is that naughty tyke of yours? She asked, attempting a change of subject. Chuyu, no idea, probably with Ukko or Seizen. And there is something I'd like him to draw for me. Porno. Maymay grinned and gave Maomao an affectionate pinch of the cheek. Maomao regretted the question. She realized that sort of joke was more Perrin's thing. I thought for sure everyone would be sick of him by now, but his popularity seems surprisingly enduring, Maomao said, rubbing her reddened cheek. Chuyu had been doing booming business drawing portraits of the courtesans and menservants, but Maomao had assumed the interest was mainly driven by novelty. That boy is talented. Maymay ducked out of the apothecary's shop and went for the clerk's desk. She picked up a folding fan. The bamboo frame was covered with quality paper. It was decorated with a picture of a cat playing with a ball. The animal was a calico. Perhaps Chuyu had used Maomao as his model. Despite the few lines used to depict it, the creature seemed startlingly alive. Just at that moment, almost as if she knew what they were talking about, Maomao the cat came by. Her tail stood up and she let out a meow. When his portrait business started to slow down, the boy began coming up with things like this, Maymay said. He knew many courtesans like he knew cats. I wondered why he was spending all his time following Maomao around, and then he came up with this. Maomao, the girl this time, did not say anything. Chuyu certainly was thorough, and although the fan's frame was old, the paper was new. He had refreshed the paper with materials likely sent from the healer's village. The paper had been given to him, and he had refurbished the frame. This meant the materials had been free. Maomao had to admit that Chuyu's drawing ability appeared to have improved substantially. Perhaps it simply had to do with how quickly children grew and matured. She was sure his drawings had been more superficial before. Oh, that's right, the boy is learning from a painter, I think, Maymay said. That's news to me. Maomao frowned. You were away in the West for so long. A customer from a big merchant house brought this guy along. He was a cutting-edge painter, or so he said. Ah, Maomao replied. It was a familiar story. Rich people bought paintings or ceramics all the time. It was a sort of sport for them. When that wasn't enough, they would surround themselves with the artists who created works they particularly liked. It was an expensive hobby, one only the rich could indulge in. Believe it or not, he said he'd introduced the guy to Joker, Maymay added. Yikes, Joker was one of the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house, but she despised men. Civil officials or students could at least talk to her about poetry or the civil examinations, but painting wasn't exactly her strong suit. That's not all, Maymay said. This painter specializes in portraits of beautiful women. Her gloom from moments before was gone, replaced by a grin and excited, gossipy waves of the hand. I'm guessing our dear sister didn't take it well, Maomao said. Oh no, she did, she was so angry. And you know what she does when she gets angry? She writes poetry. Then a rather uninformed new courtesan copied one of Joker's poems exactly and sent it to a customer. It caused quite a ruckus. Joker was a specialist in poems and lyrics, but one had to be careful with anything she wrote when she was angry. The verses looked beautiful at first glance, but they were soaked with venom. She could not be allowed to write to customers when she was in a bad mood. The madam would make sure to check Joker's outgoing mail at moments like that. Perrin's appetite for men could make her hard to handle, but Joker was at the other end of the scale and was equally troublesome. Maomao the cat wove around Maymay's legs and mewed for a treat. Maymay picked her up and placed her on her knees, scratching her under the chin. So this is the painter Chuyu has been learning from? Maomao, not the cat, asked. Yes, Joker was determined to send that nasty letter, and she used Chuyu as her messenger. Mr. Merchant, it seemed, desperately wanted Mr. Painter to create a picture of Joker. The man planned to do a quick sketch during his meeting with the courtesan, and then finish the final draft later. It seemed like a nice and easy plan, but Joker wasn't going to sit still and let him study her. She conducted the entire meeting from behind a folding screen. It was a little rude, but it was effective. Mr. Merchant and Mr. Painter were not discouraged. They left their address and asked Joker to get in touch with them. Usually a letter was delivered by an apprentice courtesan with a manservant, but a young girl could not be asked to deliver a missive with so much vitriol. So Joker called for Chu-Yu instead. It was a neat way to skirt the madam's vetting process. Chu-Yu delivered the letter and all went well, but he also took a liking to Mr. Painter's pictures and started spending time with him. He might even be over there today, Maomao said, and after I warned him not to go out, Maomao grumbled. She hoped everyone else would consider what protecting Chu-Yu required. He still favored one leg, and if something happened to him he would struggle to react quickly. Maomao, she heard Ukko call. Maomao stood up, ignoring the cat. It had rolled onto its back and was asking for food. What's wrong? She called back. Ukko looked distressed. It's Chu-Yu, what has he done this time? Maomao scowled, looking as if she was not at all surprised by this development. Please just come with me, Ukko said, taking her hand. A friend of his is dying. Chapter 10 The Bad Dumplings. Ukko brought Maomao to a mansion in the middle of the city. In the capital, public safety improved as you went north. Most of the middle-class houses were located in that area. One house looked more weathered than the others. It must have once been quite beautiful, but now some roof tiles were missing. The clay wall had also given way in places, revealing the bamboo frame underneath. It didn't seem like age so much as a lack of upkeep. Here, this is it. Ukko knocked on the door of the tumble-down house. Sorry, but this is as far as I can go. I'll catch hell from the madam if I don't get back, he said. Yeah, I understand, Maomao said. She entered the dilapidated house with a look of some curiosity. Ukko certainly seemed to be a busy man. She wondered aloud, what's this? As she entered, despite the battered state of the house's exterior, the inside was remarkably neat and tidy. That wasn't what surprised her, though. It was the walls instead. The walls were painted white and covered in stucco. Pictures had been painted on the stucco. A peach garden spread across one entire wall. Instead of 3 heroic warriors biting into the peaches, a beautiful woman was depicted. She was shaped a bit like a peach herself. Her hair was pitch black, and white teeth peeked out from between lips that looked as luscious as the fruit she was eating. She was the very essence of the peach village immortal. Maomao thought that's the sort of thing you only have time to do if you've got a patron. Maomao had said the man did paintings of beautiful women, but Maomao had never imagined something so spectacular. She studied the wall closely. The painted surfaces had a unique sheen, not like the paintings she was used to. She was just about to run a finger along the wall, hoping to figure out what the material was, when she heard pounding footsteps. Freckles, hey Freckles, what are you standing around for? Come look at him, quick. It was Chu-Yu and his face was pale. That's right. Maomao did have a bad habit of becoming completely engaged in whatever had her attention. She allowed Chu-Yu to drag her through the house until they reached what looked like a living room. The room was filled with many objects. These included colourful powders, likely pigments, and eggshells. There was also a white dust, which she thought was stucco, and another substance used to thicken it. A man was lying on a couch right in the middle of the room. Another man stood beside him, looking worried. The man on the couch appeared haggard and lacked facial hair. His pallor had gone beyond pale, he was practically white. The only colour in his skin seemed to be on his fingertips, which were covered in paint. The man standing beside him looked fastidious. However, his hands were also dirty. You have to look at the master, Chu-Yu said. The master was the famous progressive artist. There was a bucket full of vomit beside the couch. Maomao began to examine the man. His arms and legs twitched occasionally. She opened his eyes and looked at his pupils. Then she took his pulse. As far as she could tell, he showed every sign of having food poisoning. What are his symptoms? She asked. I guess he was throwing up and having diarrhea for a long time, Chu-Yu said. When it finally subsided, he seemed to be suffering with the chill, so I laid him down, added the man standing nearby. And who is this? Maomao asked. He is the master's work friend. Come on, hurry it up. Chu-Yu could browbeat her all he wanted, but there was only so much Maomao could do. If you did not know what toxin was at work, you could not treat it. If it was true the man had been vomiting and having diarrhea, though there was one thing he would certainly be lacking. Chu-yu, get me some salt and sugar. If there is none in the house, get some from somewhere else, Maomao said. She pulled a coin pouch out of the folds of her robe and tossed it to him. Got it, he said, and scurried out of the room. He might not be able to run well because of his half-paralyzed body, but he could be trusted with this much of an errand at least. I'm going to use the kitchen, Maomao told her work friend, who nodded. She went to the kitchen and looked in the water jug to make sure the water was still good. She would have preferred to boil the water, but there wasn't time. Is this fresh water? She asked. It was purchased from the drinking water vendor just yesterday, so it should be all right, the man said. If they had bought the water, then it should be safe. Perhaps this wasn't true in the poorer sections of the city, but here, it was unlikely anyone would sell something that wasn't pure. Maomao believed they could fairly confidently eliminate the possibility that the artist had drunk water that was spoiled.